Time, time, time. Of all philosophical concepts, this might be the one I struggle with the most. Time, it's fascinating. And in movies, we can speed it up and we can slow it down, just like the shots in this video. For starters, time warps and moves at different speeds as you move through the universe. I mean, if you've seen Interstellar, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But until Einstein, we didn't even know about this. But that's not what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about something even more peculiar, even more perplexing. How different cultures experience time. So let's lay down a couple ground rules. We know that everyone on Earth has the same amount of hours to use in a day. I mean, time is constant and unchanging here on Earth, but the way that different people around the world look at time changes. Unfortunately, there's a lot of context, a lot of nuance that I'm going to have to leave out due to the length of this video. Today, we're going to start with the Western world, America, Germany, and Switzerland, before moving to the Eastern world, Japan, and then we'll end in the Indian Ocean, Madagascar, for a fascinating perspective on time. Now, in America, where I'm recording this video right now, here in New York City, we view time linearly. Now, what's that line? Time is money, and baby, money is time. But it's true, because time is the ultimate scarce commodity here, and it's reflected in the metaphors that we use to describe it. Well, we spend time like we spend money, or we can save time like we save money. We also budget our time, and sometimes we waste it. And this is the perfect way to describe what life is like in New York City, where you have to move really fast, because otherwise time will just pass you by. And then in America, the past is behind us and the future is in front of us. So in the Western world, like America, we tend to focus our schedules on doing one thing at a time. Because after all, that's how we achieve peak productivity. And the Swiss are similar. They carry an even stronger respect for punctuality. I mean, after all, the Swiss watch is a national symbol. But then there's the Spaniards, the Italians, and Arabs, who see time differently, and they've organized society differently because of it. Now, they focus much less on schedules and punctuality. Dates and appointments are much more flexible because being late is more acceptable. Like, the length of a meeting can be molded, it can be stretched and warped. While at the end of a meeting, an American might say, "My time is up," people in other cultures, other places, might be happy to keep the meeting going because it's going so well at that time. But how about cyclic time? A way of thinking that instead of looking at time as having a past, a present, and a future, looks at how the earth, how nature flows. I mean, each day the sun rises and the sun sets. The seasons follow one another. People grow old and die, but then their children grow up and take their place. In what's sort of like an endless cycle of birth, life, death, and then rebirth. So in Asia, and I'm really focusing on Thailand here, time tends to be more cyclical. Like opportunities, risks, and dangers will represent themselves again when people are wiser by days, by months, or by years. Because time tends to go around and around in a circle. The Japanese have a different sense of time. They see it differently. They see time as unfolding or unraveling, unwrapping. They seem to care more about courtesy, tradition, and properness, instead of looking at how long something might take. Now, when executives meet each other for the first time, they ritualistically exchange business cards for the first couple of minutes. And what that does is it marks, it signifies the beginning of a relationship, because they tend to appreciate the beauty of ritual, procedure, and tradition. in ways that many Americans who merely jump into things do not. Because form and symbols in Japan tend to be much more important, and it reflects in the ways that they interact with time. In the Western world, we often refer to life as a journey, with the beginning, the birth being behind us, and us moving towards the future, which is in front of us, towards death. And one of the manifestations of that is we love to plan. Like in the next year, many Westerners know that they'll wake up at certain times, they'll work so many hours at certain times, they'll take vacations for a certain designated number of days, they'll brunch on Sunday morning, and like today, they'll celebrate Mother's Day on the second Sunday of May. But observers of cyclic time, they see planning totally differently. You see, they see life as not something that can be managed and something that they should strive to live with in harmony with nature. But both linear and cyclic time see the past as something that's behind us and the future as something that's ahead of us. Which brings us to Madagascar, which really is the one that blew my mind when I first learned about it. Because the Malagasy imagine the future as flowing in from the back of their heads, with the future behind them and the past in front of them. Now, why is that? Well, the past is in front of them because it's visible and known, just like the things that are literally in front of us. You see, what they do is they enjoy the past, they learn from it, and they even play with it. And it reflects in the ways that they live with their lives and even think about history. You see, what the Malagasy do is they spend an inordinate amount of time consulting their ancestors, digging out their ancestors' bones, and even partying with them. But there's more. Buses in Madagascar leave not according to like a timetable like they do in America, but when the bus is full. Why? Because to them, that's the most efficient way to do it, because that's when the most people have chosen to leave. Now, it's totally different and the opposite way of looking at time. So time, it's so often something that we totally fail to question. I mean, so many of us think that there is just one way of looking at time. But maybe it is time for us to stop taking it for granted. Because different cultures have remarkably different and unique ways of interacting with time, and in turn, those ways of interacting with time reflect how they work, how they think, how they interact with each other, and even the very experience of life itself.
It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life.